Frank from LifetimeTileWorkss here. So I'll be guiding you step by step through this basement shower installation. So this is a small shower, pretty straightforward. So when I walked in, I made sure that the walls and the framing was absolutely flat. I didn't worry about it being plumb because these are 12 by 24 tiles, and unless they were large format tiles, we needed to be plumb and flat. But in this situation, we just needed to be flat. Very flat. Needs to be perfectly flat. That's non-negotiable. All right, so we move forward with the wall boarding once you fix the framing. And in this instance, the client chose to not go with foam board. They did not want to pay, the upcharge on it. The reason I give the clients the option is because there is a considerable price difference. And second, I feel like Durarock is completely acceptable. It's been used for years, and as long as you can deal with the capillary action when you waterproof, Durarock it'll withstand a lifetime of abuse. I'll be doing a video in the future explaining how resilient Durarock truly is, because it's gotten a bad rep, these last couple years, but it's truly a great wallboard material. All right, for the concrete base, I used the Schluter-Curdy bonded flange. For the concrete that I'm using Saccrete sand mix is the concrete that is readily available in my area. The other option I have of concrete is the Mapei bedding mortar, but that stuff is $20 a bag, and it does provide a better finish, right? The sand mix does not allow you to get a super fine finish, but the old school way, we would have to install the tiles right on the concrete. Nowadays, as you can see, I'm going over all the concrete with, thin set and waterproofing. In this case, the Curdy membrane. So it doesn't need to be a mirror finish, right? You're never going to truly appreciate the finish of the concrete unless you're installing tile right over it. So, waterproofing this pan, going 6 inches into the walls, prefabricated inside corners on all the corners. Prefabricated outside corners at the ends of the curb, and I made my own inside corners for the neo angle in the curb. And I also put a 12-inch wide strip in the inside corner of the walls that goes 3 foot high. The rest of the Durarock gets a topical waterproofing. In this case, I used Laddercrete's topical waterproofing. And that's to deal with the capillary action of the Durarock that I mentioned before. And not only that, to deal with the vapor. I'm really, really concerned about vapor when it comes to showers, right? I am willing to take a shower without having any tile on the walls or on the floor. That's how confident I am of this installation. So moving on to the shower floor tile install. So I'm using a Curdy drain grate. I could have just as easily cut out the 4 center squares in this 2x2 mosaic sheet, and this Curdy drain grate would have fit right in it. But I felt like is the easy way to go, and it doesn't look as nice as putting that drain grate diagonally. As you can see, I opted out for doing the diagonal drain grate install, and I was able to get those corners perfectly nice and rounded, and it just gives it a much more sophisticated look. All right, so this is as basic of an installation as you can get. It's pretty straightforward. The only downside to using these mosaic sheets is the fact that as soon as the mesh in the back touches water, the glue starts to deteriorate, and the tiles, the individual squares, will start falling off, right? And that's the bane of every tile installer doing these mosaic sheets. You're going to have a lot of these little squares that fall off, and when they do, you just got to make sure you dry them out and you back butter them and reinstall them, right? You cannot just press them down. Once they fall off the sheet, they need to be back buttered. And any piece that's along the perimeter of the shower floor that gets installed after the fact needs to be back buttered. You can't just press those tiles in there, because especially if they're slightly wet, or even if the thin set had just skimmed over slightly, you got to make sure you back butter them. It's the only way to ensure that they'll never come off. So this installation went great. Moving on, we moved on to the curb stone top. So it's a quartz stone. It's all one piece. So we had a slight issue with this quartz stone. I wanted it to be in three pieces. The fabricator brought it back in one piece, and I wanted it to be in three pieces because it's easier to pitch inwards when it's each individual piece, as opposed to having to pitch the whole thing towards the shower. So that's why you see here I troweled with a 1/2 by 1/2 inch trowel the curb and the stone, so I have some room so I can lift that whole stone and be able to pitch everything inward slightly. So moving on with the wall tile. The wall tile I'm installing is a 12 by 24 in the vertical orientation, and alongside of it there's a 5 by 24 tile that kind of accents it, right? So here I am checking my coverage, and it's absolutely beautiful. I back butter every single tile that goes on the wall. Even if you can't see it on the video, there's not a single tile that went on this wall that wasn't back buttered. The clips that I'm using are of the LefTech brand with a 16th inch spacer. The reason I love using those clips is because they're the ones that allow me to apply the most pressure before breaking, so I can exert a lot of force on the tile before they break. And you can't do that with all brands. The downside to those clips is that they're harder to break, so if your grout line is not perfectly clean around the clip, it has a little bit of thinset, it will break off in a way that leaves plastic inside the grout line that then has to be cut off before grouting. So in this wall, I have right above the tile that I'm installing now, there's a niche. And the bottom of the niche lines up perfectly with that tile. So as you can see, I have my marks here. These are the marks of the grout lines. The left and right sides of the niche are gonna also line up perfectly with the grout lines. So I marked everything, I cut out the door rock, and I'm cutting out the framing here, and I'm making my own framing for the niche. The way I build my niches, I use foam board for the sides and the back of the niche. I never use Durarock inside niches. The foam board is waterproof, but considering that I'm screwing it in, there's a bunch of perforations that got made, so it compromises the waterproofing and the integrity of the foam board. So all the foam board pieces were Curdy fixed. I also applied Curdy fix to the perimeter of the niche, the inside perimeter of the niche, and I Curdy fix the back panels to the drywall. So once the back panels have been Curdy fixed to the drywall, I move on to the waterproofing of the niche, and just trying to cover all the perforations that I've made on the foam board, any seams. So I use the Schluter Curdy membrane to waterproof my niche as well, and after the waterproofing is installed, I go with Curdy fix on all the inside corners of the niche, just in case when I was using my trowel there to flatten those edges, just in case anything got nicked or it weakened the membrane. The Curdy fix will take any of that. And what I'm trying to prevent here more than water itself is the vapor. I'm really afraid of vapor and just steam getting in there and into the wall cavity, producing mold or just moisture in the wall cavity. Now, the wall tile. Every single wall tile got back buttered. I don't know if I mentioned that already, but that's super important. The tile that sits right above the niche that gets no support, you have to find a way to support it if you want to continue to stack tiles on top. The way I found that works the best is using ratcheting poles. Normally they're used to hang wall cabinets. So these ratcheting poles work amazingly. This is the best solution I've found. Removing the clips. These are LefTech clips, and they do give you a hard time. They do leave plastic residue in the grout lines that you have to take the time to cut out. but it is worth it to me because these are the clips that you can apply the most pressure with to the tile. The other ones break too easily, and I've used almost all of them. The grout that I'm using here is regular sanded grout, North American Adhesives branded. So you'll notice that I didn't tile the niche, and I also didn't tile the inside and outside faces of the curb. Reason being is because the customer, after the installation, decided that she didn't like the quartz that was installed on the curb, and the niche, also the bottom shelf, and there's a shelf that divides the niche in half. Are made, those shelves are made out of the same quartz that she chose, that she ended up not liking. So the reason I didn't install those tiles in the niche and on the faces of the curb is so once the general contractor and the client agree to a fix, they can remove both without much trouble. So here it is. This is the project, and it's a small one, but it went smoothly and beautifully. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. I want to make a gentleman's agreement with the viewers. If we've provided any value at all through this video or any of the videos in our channel, we ask you to subscribe to the channel and give us a like. It's free for you to watch these videos, and we're not getting paid at all to make these videos and record all of our installations, and it takes a substantial amount of effort to do all this and to share the knowledge that was hard-earned through years of apprenticeship. Please, the only way you can help us and reward us for this hard work is by subscribing and giving us a like. We would greatly appreciate it, and it's the one thing that you can do to incentivize us to keep going and putting in the hours that it takes to record and produce these type of videos. All right, shake hands. That's the agreement, guys. Thank you for watching, and remember, we're trying to produce work that will last a lifetime, work that will be enjoyed for generations. Peace.